Howdy YouTube, and welcome to another episode of the Gunman Raw. So, haven't done a masking video for a while, and some people have been saying that they've been enjoying me doing a couple more raw videos, so let's get into it. So we got this full respray on a little Mazda 3 here, Soul Red Crystal, pretty common color. So I've masked up most of the body. I did that before lunch. So we'll finish masking the body off, do the doors and shoot the breeze, talk a bit of shit, and yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, today is, as of making this video, might get it uploaded tonight. It is the Monday and most people aren't at work, so I'm not pushing myself too hard today. If my prep guy, Shi Jun, well, he's rapidly becoming a very good painter, to be honest, and to be fair on him. Yeah, he is not here today, so generally this car would have been painted if it was both of us here today, but yeah, because of that, because it's just me, and partly because it kind of feels like a holiday, because a lot of people, because Melbourne Cup Day is always on a Tuesday, and yeah, most I don't know, I'd say 80% of the Victorian workforce tend to take this day off to make an extra long weekend out of it. Doesn't bother me that I've got to work. My boss told me a couple of months ago that he's got 200 employees, and sure, no one's going to be shedding a tear for him, but I was just like sort of thinking, you know, I like to put myself in other people's positions sometimes, and I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, imagine that. Imagine having 200 employees, and like one day, that's, well, what is it? 200 times 8. So what's that? 1,600 hours that you've just got to come up with. So yeah, to be fair on him, I don't blame him. And look, to be fair, like, you know, one of my co-workers said, hey, you know, like, it still comes out of their holiday pay, but I'm like, yeah, still, it's 1,600 hours worth of work that's not getting done. You know what I mean? And in saying that, hey, if you really wanted that day off, you can put for it off, you know, like, there's nothing to stop you putting in for it in advance. You can put, you know, put it down for holiday pay or whatever. So yeah, that's always an option. But yeah, it really doesn't bother me that I have to come in. They reckon we actually here in Victoria have more public holidays than any other state. I think it was 11 last I checked. They keep adding more onto it. This Victorian government, I tell you what, they don't make it easy for, I don't know, people with money. They love taking money off people, put it that way. Yeah, it's a very expensive place to live. And don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. It's a wonderful place in many ways. It's on the other hand, it can be an acquired taste. Like, some people come here and it's just too much for them. One of my friends from, I think, Hobart, yeah, he came up just, you know, for a bit of a long weekend, and he's like, dude, this place is hectic. He's like, man, I could never live here. But yeah, so I do get that. I totally get that, because yeah, I have left this city a few times. Like, I was born here in Melbourne, in Carlton actually, 1983. And then my parents moved up to the country. You may not know Newstead, but either way, it's near Castlemaine. And then after that, my mum moved to Bendigo, which is where I grew up, that's only like 2 hours away from here, all of those places. So it's not far from Melbourne. Always had my extended family in Melbourne, so, you know, always been, you know, pretty connected to Melbourne. And then I did move down here by myself as soon as I turned 17 to start my spray painting apprenticeship. Yeah, but in saying all of that, I did move to Perth, as you guys probably know. I moved there for about 10 years, and yeah, when I came back, man, it took a bit to adjust. And the first time I came back, I lasted a couple of months, and I'm like, man, I'm out of here. Like, I hated it. There was nothing holding me down here. So I'm like, man, I'm out. After a couple of months, that was in, yeah, like I say, so I left Melbourne in 2012 to move to Perth. Came back in 2016. I was actually originally planning on coming back to, so I worked in the mines for about a year, and then I just don't like being unemployed, right? So I got myself a job in Perth. I'm like, hey, I'll just keep this job for a couple of months while I sort of sort my life out, and then I'll move back over to Melbourne, because that was after I finished in the mines. Anyway, after a couple of months at the place where I actually started this YouTube channel, I loved it. I just loved the weather. I loved the pace of the city. I loved, yeah, I don't know, just yeah, the vibe. Like people, it's a bit more of a sort of country town type vibe than Melbourne, which is, yeah, people are very rude here. And look, after a while, you just get used to it. Like once, yeah. But yeah, like it you do have that adjustment period, you know. Yeah, so yeah, what else am I ranting about? I can't remember. You guys probably don't really tune in for me to rant about cities and shit, but you know, that's what this channel has always been about, just me talking shit, whatever comes to my mind while I'm working. Because yeah, I don't know, I've always even especially early on doing these videos, I always found it hard to narrate masking. It's like, I don't know what okay, we want paint there, we don't want paint there, we put masking on it to stop it. Like there's not much else I can really say about it. You know, obviously the edges are important, so one thing that you know, a lot of new people to it will do is they'll sort of get that too close. So what I like to do here, I'm not sure how well you can see that's sitting right on the edge. What you want to do is sort of get that back off the edge a little bit onto that sealer edge. If you come in like a couple of mils, there's, well, generally always a seam sealer edge in there. So that's the edge that you want to be masking off. And some people go do the old fancy false edges, but I find just a good old back mask, there is nothing wrong with it, and it just comes down to how you paint it. So we're putting lots of coats of paint on these. So what is it? I think I counted something like 9 or 11. I have changed my method a couple of times, but either way, what I do, so I do wet on wet. I don't even do the edges. I don't need wet on wet all inside those edges, because if you get wet on wet, then you got to put color and you got to put candy. So what I do, wet on wet only over the faces. When it comes to here, I'm always careful to sort of angle the gun like that. So I'll actually kind of stand back here when I'm doing that, so that the wet on wet doesn't creep inside your masking there. Yeah, and I won't do the edges with the wet on wet, and then when it comes to the color, I'll only do like one very quick coat over the edges. So first coat faces, second coat faces and edges, third coat just faces, and then candy, I'll do first coat faces, second coat faces and edges, right? So you have got one coat of color and candy over those edges, and that is enough. And then it does get a bake for 15 minutes, and then I'll do the last 2 coats of clear, and I'll go first coat faces, second coat faces and edges, just to lock it all down. So yeah, all in all, I think it only gets, what's that, 3 coats on the edges, which is not yeah, overloading it. Whereas if like, I think the first few times, because I was just used to, before I did these, this color, I'm just used to always paint your edges on every stage, and it got too much. You'd get these rough edges, even if it is in there a little bit, it's into that next, you know, the sealer line, you still do get a bit of a masking edge there. So yeah, yeah, that's that. Also want to make sure I cover these up, because they are seen on the inside of the car. But yeah, my guy, Shi Jun, my Chinese mate, actually the only Chinese spray painter I've ever worked with. He is amazing. So I did this, I don't even know why, I just did an IQ test the other day. And IQ tests are based on pattern recognition. So this Chinese guy that I work with, man, his IQ must be higher than mine. Like, so yeah, he obviously recognizes the pattern of what I'm doing, and he just follows. I don't even have to tell him half the stuff, you know, like he'll just say, see me mask your car a certain way, and he'll follow it. He'll watch me paint a certain way. Obviously certain things I'll sort of, you know, steer him in the right direction where I can. But yeah, it's just wonderful to have somebody who puts the effort in, and he gets rewarded, you know. Like, so I had a really good example. I had a detailer, and I was trying to help him. So he was kind of struggling with cutback marks and like a few things, swirl marks, like you name it, right? Anyway, I had the solutions, right? I know how to do that. Like, yeah, I know his job and my job, right? Like at the end of the day, his job is part of my job. Like I still believe that you're not a good painter if you can't polish properly, you know? If you can't do some sort of medium-sized dents, you can't call yourself a good painter. You can be a painter, but you're not a good painter if you don't know the things on the periphery, like on the outside of your trade. And well, polishing, that's not on the outside of your trade. That is your trade. It always has been. Yeah, I don't know, these days, like, things have changed. I guess they have changed a fair bit in the, 23 years I've been in the trade. But yeah, like, it was never a detailer. It was always just a cleaner. We used to hire a cleaner. And they would clean the shop. They'd be the one that emptied the bins. And, yeah, they'd empty the bins and they'd just wash the car. That's it. They'd wash a car. Like, it's it's just cleaning a car. You know, it wasn't a detailer and adding all these extra things, ceramic coatings. Like, ceramic coatings didn't exist. Dual action buffs didn't exist. I still remember we were having some troubles with some swirl marks, and geez, this must have been like 2002 or 3 or something. And one of the reps came in, and they were sales reps, right? They just came in and was like, hey, try this. It was like a maybe 7-inch pad or something, 7 or 8-inch pad. It would go on your dual action orbital sander, right? Because we didn't have DA polishers back then. So yeah, like to get, and I use it. It was a really strange pad, but either way, you just put it on your orbital, blow your orbital out with all the dust on it, and yeah, that would get rid of the swirl marks. So yeah, I've been around for a few years, and yeah, definitely seen a lot of things change, I guess. But what my original point was going to be was that I had somebody who had problems that just wouldn't, like every time I'm like, man, when you get those cutback marks, right, what's happening is you sanded it with too coarse of a grit. And I say, look, you need to sand, sometimes you do need it, like I get it, you know, sometimes you need to use the 1500 or the 1200 or whatever, you know, like on a really big nib or something like that. But you must refine those scratches. You can't just use them, like, so he was using these toll cut discs, you may know them. Well, they're not really discs, they're little squares, right? You use them on a block. So they're kind of handy, but to be honest, they're nearly more trouble than they're worth, those toll cuts, because they're quite scratchy and they're not orbital. So orbital scratches, you can use, say, 2000 on orbital. That will act similar to like a 3000 by hand, if that makes sense. So basically the hand sanding and the block sanding, those scratches do end up deeper, they're harder to get out. So anything that you do with the orbital sander will be fine, because yeah, you got those little, yeah, it's just the way it is. So yeah, either way, my point was gonna be that I had all these things that I could tell him, and every time I'm like, oh man, if you do that, he'd have an excuse. It's like he took it as if I was trying to, I don't know, have a go at him. It's like, dude, I'm trying to help you, man. Like, you have the problem, I have the solution, you know? You know, like he would use those toll cut 1500s on everything, like everything. He'd go over the whole car with it, and then he'd go over it with 3000. And what happens with 3000? You'll lose performance, right? Let's just say you've denibbed, you know, 20 bits on this door. You might, at the start, yeah, that 3000 be performing really well, but for the rest of it, you'll lose that performance, and you're not completely removing those 1500 scratches that you're putting with the block. So when you go to buff it, it might look polished, and then if you don't use the alcohol cleaner, you're not removing all the solvents, and they call them fillers, it's not really the correct term. But yeah, when you remove all those greases and the oils out of it, because he doesn't do that, and so it's another layer. It's like you would have caught them if you use that spray, the alcohol cleaner, but you don't do that. And again, we've got these little scallop discs which you can use. You can denib with the scallop disc, and it's a one hit. You know, I'm like, man, it'll be quicker, and you won't get those cutback marks as So, yeah, my point is, I've got this Chinese guy in here who can barely speak English, and he's just killing it. He's like, you don't even have to tell him, but he just does things. And as soon as you do tell this guy, there's no questions. It's just bang, he will do it next time. So that's what I mean. His intelligence is extreme, right? Very, very intelligent. Then I had this other guy, fluent in English, but wouldn't listen to a thing I said. And it's like, man, I just ended up giving up. I just ended up telling the boss, I'm like, man, look, he's like, what's going on with this detailing bay, or all these jobs we're having to redo? He was getting behind. He was like so far behind. I'm like, man, I'm not going in there to help him, because we've employed him to do a job. Him not being capable of doing it, that's not, like, I'm not here to you know, do his job for him. Ultimately, he's gone. We got another guy, and the new guy that we've got, I actually worked with him years ago. Baxter is his name. He's a gun too. Good bloke and good at what he does. He's at the point where he's waiting for work. Like, he's so far ahead, and yeah, like, yeah, he'll just identify an issue and okay, how are we gonna fix it? And he will listen to me too. So yeah, currently we've got a really good crew here, which is good. No bitching, backstabbing, or any of that kind of stuff, except for me talking about that detail. He's gone anyway. But I guess I was just using it to yeah, just highlight, you know, the difference in people's. And yeah, look, to be fair on that other guy that didn't last, like, he would last. Look, he's above average. To be completely fair on him, he's actually above average when it comes to detailers, right? But the kind of work that we're doing here, it has to be very high quality. Like, you can't miss any D-nibs, right? You can't have D-nib marks coming back. You can't have swirl marks on it. You know, it's just the kind of work that we're doing. We do need a high quality standard done. So yeah, like I say, to be completely fair on that guy, his work was not that bad, right? It just needed a few tweaks in it. But my point is, I tried telling him, he just wouldn't listen. And he keeps telling me about, oh, but when I used to work here, and I'm like, you're not there, man. Like, don't worry about where you used to work. You know, if that was so important, like, you could go back there if you really want to, you know? Like, it's totally irrelevant where you used to work. And I said, it's the same for me, man. Like, it's the same in the paint shop. You know, what if I just start doing shit work, and then my boss is like, hey, what's going on with that? And I'll be like, oh, well, where I used to work, you know? Well, my boss is gonna say, mate, that's a bullshit excuse. You don't work there anymore. Like, what? And he just kept using that as an excuse. Oh, well, where are you? And I'm like, mate, forget about it. Okay, yeah, no worries. I gotta go give this guy a lift anyway. So I guess we'll call that a video, guys. Until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gumming out.